Hey, so I wasn't planning on going live today. I am here. I'm trying this multiple stream thing today. So if you're watching me in the Facebook group, hello. If you're watching me on Instagram, hello. Or if you're listening to this later on the podcast, I was like, you know what? I need to record a podcast episode. I'm clearly not video ready, but I was like, you know what? We're just going to hit record because I felt like there were some moms out there that needed to hear this message today. So feel free to give me a hey on whatever platform that you're hanging out with me. Or if you're listening on the podcast later, a purpose-drivenmom.com/podcast 420, that's where these show notes are going to be. I want to talk to you today about what do you feel like you can do when that voice in your head comes to you and says, it's not enough, right? It's not enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not being enough, and I'm failing. Because that's the voice that's literally been in my head for the past 2 weeks. And I worked this weekend to kind of coach myself through. And I know that I'm not the only mom that feels this way. I don't know about you, but there are so many times where as a mom, I just feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm not succeeding. I feel like I'm struggling everywhere. And I'm gonna tell you a couple stories today, and you can feel free to share yours with me if you're on with me live. But I'm struggling in the parenting zone. Let's start there. I'm going to talk about what do you do when you feel like you're not enough as a parent? What do you do when you feel like you're failing at work? What do you do when you feel like you're failing at home? And here's the thing. I think as moms, we could make this list, this constant list of all the categories, of all the areas, of all the places where we feel like we're not enough. Because as moms, there are so many things on our plates at all times. I was talking to my husband about this, and I was saying just the mental load right now, getting ready for back to school. Drop in the comments if you're watching live, like when your kids are going back to school. So my kids go back to school the 26th of August. I have lots of friends, their kids have already started. So we're kind of in this closing out of summer for us now. We have one more vacation to go, but we've got to get everything ready. My son's getting ready for football. We've got to buy the school supplies, all those things. And I was explaining to my husband that the amount of things on my plate right now, the amount of things on my shoulder, it's exhausting. And it makes me feel like in many areas, I'm not doing enough. I know that's not true. And I think you know that's not true as well, right? You know that you're doing the best that you can. But the voice that lives in your head that says it's not enough is the one that I want to help you with today. Because again, I've been struggling as well. Let's talk the back to school. I was going to start with my kid, but we're going to start with back to school. And actually, as I'm recording this, my son is recovering. He just had his tonsils out. He's on the couch. He fell asleep. I was like, cool. I'm going to try to get this recorded really quick because there are these things on my plate that are making me feel like I'm just not doing enough. Here is what we're going to talk about. What do you feel like when you feel like you're not doing enough when it comes to getting all the stuff ready for the school? All of the things, all the paperwork, all the kids' activities. When we feel like we're failing in this area. And I think this voice comes because we see other parents doing it and we think that mom has got it all together. She's got her kids in 12 different activities. She never is late with anything. She always knows when practice is and what color. My daughter does competitive cheer, like what the theme is for this week's practice and like all those things. And we see other moms doing it and it makes us feel inadequate. If you're in that boat, I feel you. I have been struggling with this as well. And one of the things I decided to do that has been really helpful is get off social media. Now, ironic, right? I'm filming this live. Yes, I'm recording on the podcast. You might be listening to me later or watching on YouTube, but I'm live on Facebook right now in my group. I'm live over on Instagram. It's social media, right? Social media can be great. It can do so many great things, but social media can also make us feel inadequate. I find that I am the most dissatisfied with the job I'm doing, quotes, right? The job I'm doing managing my kids' activities and things that we're doing when I see other people on social media doing it differently. It's not that their way is right. It's that their way makes me feel like the way that I do it is incorrect. I see people buying stuff for back to school. Now, I don't buy my daughter got a new book bag because hers ripped. My son did not. We did buy some new back to school stuff. Some of the other stuff, I'm like, we have it in the closet. But then I see all these people and they're going to the stores and the Target and they're getting all their kids these things. And it starts to get in my brain a little bit that I'm not doing good enough for my kids because not everything that is new. Now, again, I know that's not fact. I think that this is the first tip I'm going to give you. When you're feeling like you're not doing good enough, I want you to ask yourself, what is the truth? What is the actual truth? The truth is my kids have their school supplies. Fact. My kids' school supplies have nothing to do with who I am as a person, but we like to make it mean something, right? So the question you then are going to ask yourself is, what am I making this mean? If the truth is my kids have their school supplies, not everything is new, what I'm making it mean is that because they didn't get new stuff, I'm somehow failing them as a parent. Okay. How do I feel about that? I feel inadequate. I feel embarrassed a little bit, like, oh my gosh, my kids aren't going to have new things. Like, I have all these feelings, but what do I want the fact to be? So what I want the fact to be is I don't want to care at all about what other people are doing. So how do I get out of this? My tip for this one is going to be decrease your social media time. When you are feeling inadequate about things, I want you to ask yourself, how much time are you spending allowing outside influences get into your head? Now, again, social media could be good. You could be hearing what I'm saying today and be like, yes, I needed to hear that. But when it becomes too much, and only you know what too much is, when it becomes this thing where you feel like, oh, I'm just always comparing, I'm seeing these other people's vacations, I'm seeing brand new back to school outfits and things like that, that's when you want to pause. I feel really strong in some of my convictions I make in the beginning, and then I start to see things and it changes my mind. My husband will say this to me too. He'll notice, I'm like, oh, we don't have these sort of things together, these systems together. We're not doing these trips. And he's like, have you been on Facebook? And I'm like, I have been, and it's sucking the life out of me. I was thinking about this with my daughter. We were talking about back to school clothes. It's hot where I live in back to school time. My kids don't need anything new. When they need stuff, it's like maybe November, right? When we need pants. They don't need new shorts. They don't need new t-shirts, right? I let them pick one new outfit out for the first day if they want, and that's it. But I started to see other people's back to school hauls, right? And I was like, oh, this is getting in my head. My kids should have these kind of things, etc. Oh, I think my camera just went on my Facebook Live. So I'm going to keep talking though, because I have a backup over here on Instagram. And I don't know how to fix the camera. So if the camera's not working on Facebook Live, you can still listen to me. I'm going to keep going live and hope that it goes back on. I'm also on Instagram. We'll put this on the podcast and YouTube. But here's the thing. If we are always comparing ourselves to what we see other people are doing, we're going to always feel dissatisfied. It's never going to be enough, right? Yeah, and Adrian said the same thing. I'm happier when I have less social media use. So when you're feeling like it's not enough, I want to encourage you to get off social media for a little bit. Again, I love a good scroll. I absolutely love it, but I am not going to allow it to get into my head. Now, what do you do if you feel like you're failing because of things that are happening in your life when it comes to parenting? Let's talk about this. My son, asleep right now. We're on the struggle bus. I'm not even gonna lie. His behavior has been really not good. Lots of destructive things. If you've seen in my stories, I've shared a few of them. Lots of defiance this summer, really struggling. And it was making me feel like it was all my fault. I said this to my husband. I was like, I feel like his behaviors are because I'm not spending enough time with him. I got back into work, we came back from vacation, things like that. And I feel like I'm not spending enough time with him. So because of that, he's acting out. I had to go through the same exercise. What is the truth there? The truth is, yes, could he use more attention for me and things like that? But his behavior is not a reflection of who I am as a person, right? That's his behavior. He's his own person. And so if maybe you're in this point where you're struggling with your kids or parenting, whatever age, my kids are currently, my little guy is about to be 7 in a couple weeks, 8, and almost 18. All my kids are like about to have birthdays. So almost 7, almost 9, and almost 18. And in all of those ages with my kids, I feel like there's places I could always improve and do better. But I need to remind myself this. Just because it's a place I could do better doesn't mean that I'm failing in the place I'm existing. Hear that again. Just because you could do better, you could improve in something, does not mean that you are failing in the current space. It's okay to want to improve. It's okay to want to be better. It's okay to want to work on yourself. I love to listen to podcasts and books and courses and things to become a better parent. But it doesn't mean that the parenting that I'm doing is a failure. It just means that there's areas that could feel more aligned. And I think when I start to wrap my brain around that, when I start to say, nope, that is what it truly is. It's really about making sure that what I'm doing is aligned, not that I'm failing. I take the pressure off myself to be this perfect parent. I think in society, we feel like we need to check all the boxes in all the places. And it's not true. When we think of balance, a lot of times we think of that little circle and your pizza pie cutout, and it's all kind of set in there. But in reality, it isn't balance. It's alignment. This summer has been a really good time for me to get to do that because I have worked a lot less this summer because I wanted to be present with my kids. My kids have had a lot less camps. Like I said, my son will have been off a month before he goes to another camp. We really have been having home time. So that means that a couple things need to change for me. I need to be working differently. And sometimes that's less, sometimes that's at night. I need to be more intentional about other things. That's what alignment feels like for me. When they go back to school, and I have a full 6 hours where they're, there, I can work differently. It's not about everything getting equal amounts of time. It's about the things that are most important to you working. I just posted this on my Instagram, actually. We signed my son up for football, and football starts Thursday. Football is 4 nights a week. And again, six, almost seven, 4 nights a week, and at least one game on the weekends. It's a lot. My daughter does competitive cheer. I shared that. My oldest is basketball. He's going to be a senior in high school, right? There's a lot happening in our very full and busy life. But I paused because I was like, oh, is this it? Like, should we still do football? Because we had such a nice summer, not feeling like we had to run to activity to activity. It was really nice slowing down. But then I came home yesterday, I was running errands, and he was like in his full gear with my husband in the backyard practicing, and he was having such a good time. And I thought, no, this is what he wants to do. So for alignment for us for the fall season is going to be that our nights are going to be busier, right? Our weekends are going to be busier. So we need to be intentional about our family time. It's just looking at it differently. But it's hard not to feel like you aren't doing enough. It's hard not to feel like I don't have hours that I'm spending with my kid. I don't have hours that I'm spending on my self-care. I'm not spending hours in all these areas because those hours don't all exist together. We have to allow enough to be enough. It's why I teach the 15-minute formula. It's why I teach, hey, can you show up for yourself in these small chunks? I mentioned my daughter's at camp this week. My son is home recovering from his tonsils. I have my work schedule, and I looked at it yesterday. I started to feel the overwhelm. I started to feel like it's not going to be enough. I'm not going to be able to put in enough work hours. I'm not going to be able to put in enough time. And I had to stop and ask myself the question of what is true? Well, what is true is that I'm going to be intentional with the time I have. Again, I finished a meeting. I walked out there. My son had fallen asleep because I was in meetings. I said he could watch TV, and I had planned on spending time with him as soon as my calls were done. I'm going to be intentional right now. I'm not going to feel guilty that I came back into the office and I was like, let me record this podcast, Instagram. Well, let me do all these things. And when he wakes up, I'm going to be focused with him. You're never going to do enough. It's never going to be good enough for you. It's never going to be good enough for society. It's never going to be good enough for the voice in your head that says you need to do more, unless you start to look at things as alignment over balance. When you're trying to do things 100% of the time in every area of your life, you will always feel like a failure. Instead, what if you said, I'm going to switch my priorities up a bit. I'm going to switch the amount of time I want to put on something, and I'm going to allow it to change. That is the thing that has helped me this summer feel like, you know what? I didn't show up for work like I wanted to this summer, but I showed up for my family, and that felt really good. And there are some seasons, we're going into the conference, our Purpose Shift for Mom retreat coming up in September. In September, it's going to be very busy for me. I'm going to need my husband to help out more. I'm going to have to back up, and that works for us. My husband's job is very heavy in the summer and it's light in September. Well, in September, I'm going to need him to take me to football practice every night because I need that time to work. I'm going to have to do that. And maybe family is not going to be number one. It might be number two. And I want to tell you that that's okay. There's this concept I teach in my program, the Purpose of Your Mom Club, and it's about the glass and the rubber balls. And Nora Roberts, she has this quote. I don't know the direct quote, but it came from Nora Roberts. That's where I heard it originally. But it's about glass and rubber balls and how as moms, we're constantly juggling all the balls. And in some seasons of our life, the balls are glass and some of them are rubber. The glass ones are going to break and the rubber ones will bounce back. This summer, I can tell with the way my son is behaving, things like that, one-on-one time, family time needs to be a glass ball right now. We need that time. We're craving that time together. Work for me in the summer became a rubber ball. I still worked on it. It was still important. But if some things fell through the cracks, I knew they would bounce back, so to say. I still had deadlines, etc. But it wasn't the big priority. I'm not even going to pretend that in September, like work is going to be my glass ball. We're getting ready for the conference. We have a lot of things we're working on the back end. Head to purposedrivenmom.com/conference. Go grab your ticket if you haven't gotten it yet. But that's my glass ball, and my family is a rubber ball. It's still important to me. It's still something I'm focusing on. I'm not going to be like, okay, kids, I'll see you in October, right? But there are some things where if my kids watch more TV or we eat out more or, I'm not doing everything, it's okay. And this concept has allowed me to say, like, not everything can be done at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Not everything can be done at this super high intensity all the time. And that's okay. Give yourself some grace to know that you're doing your best, and you will never feel like you're doing, quote, enough if you don't give yourself that space to decide what enough actually is. I will never finish my to-do list, ever. There will always be something physically or mentally on a to-do list that has to get done. It's okay. I make my list for the day. I'm intentional about my time blocks. I'm focused on what I have to do. And I still will probably get to the end of the day with things not completed. Instead of beating myself up over what I haven't done, I want to congratulate myself for how I have showed up and remind myself I'm doing my best. And if you struggle with this every day, look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. And that's what matters. Last week I had a struggle. It was just a mental health struggle week. And I was in this mindset of it's not enough. You're failing. You're failing everything. I was like on that brain spiral, and I will say, like, I haven't been in therapy this summer as much as I needed to because my kids were home, and I know that this is connected, but I was on this brain spiral of I'm not doing enough, I'm failing everywhere, I'm letting everyone down. It was starting to go. And I felt it impacting my day to day. And I was feeling kind of stuck. I would get up and be like, I don't want to do anything because I'm feeling like it doesn't matter. Nothing is good enough. And these were the thoughts in my head. And I really struggled. And then this weekend, I took some time to journal. I took some time, to pray and to think, like, what do I need right now? And I had to remind myself that what I was doing was good enough. And the only thing I need to keep doing is keep going. And I just wanted to encourage you. This episode's going to air on the podcast, I think mid-August, late August. So there's a lot of moms who are getting ready for back to school who might need to hear that. You did enough this summer. Your kids had a great time. Popsicles for breakfast was a good idea. You didn't need to spend $1,000,000 going to every event as long as what you did felt aligned for your family. That is enough. I'm going to put this on the podcast at a later date, a purposedrivenmom.com/podcast420. I don't know if the video went in the Facebook group, so we'll have to check and see if we have a video for YouTube. If not, at least we've got the recording, and we'll go from there. Have a wonderful day. And if you need help, I'm here. Just send me a DM. We can chat more. And also know that the Purpose Driven Mom Club doors, they're going to be opening up at the end of August, right around the time I think this is airing. So you can go to a purposedrivenmom.club. Let me try that one again. You could go to a purposedrivenmom.com/club and head over, get on the wait list. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Instead of sitting in what you haven't done, I want you to find enjoyment of how you've showed up for yourself and your priorities today. So have a good one. We're going to say goodbye over here on Instagram. That one ended. I'm going to say goodbye. Hopefully on Facebook you were able to see me. If not, hopefully this audio video worked for you.